But let's talk about Spirit Feeder. It's a ranged weapon mutator that at level 10, whenever you reload your weapon, it increases the damage of that attached mod by 25% for 5 seconds. And then casting that attached mod is going to increase your reload speed by 25% for 5 seconds. Now, I want to start this kind of by saying I do like this mutator. I think it's fun because it's really weird and different, and it immediately starts like getting ideas of how I would use it flowing, right? Because it's got mod stuff going on. It makes me think do reload things, some kind of combination. It also synergizes perfectly with like the shiny hog lure and digested hog lure, which both give me mod effects whenever I reload. And I like those rings because, again, they're kind of weird and different and do stuff for you. And so immediately I'm like, okay, I can do some things with this. And I've come up with a couple ways that I like to use it that work pretty decently for me, which, I mean, is not the end all be all of like what's best for the Spirit Feeder, but, you know, they've worked for me, right? But there are problems with it, right? And we'll get to, I'll show you the basic ideas I like for like what works with it. And then we'll talk about some of the problems. The first basic idea is, I mean, one, I've gone straight into a mod build, and specifically an explosive build with Archon, Summoner, use a detonation trigger, etc., you know, explosive blasting cap, Burden of the Destroyer. I've got the shiny hog lure on and digested hog lure, right? And we're going to be using the rotted arrow. This first setup is like very kind of like intensive, like action intensive. It's very engaging, right? And the basic idea is that you're going to alternate between shooting and then firing your mod, right? And because the effects only last for 5 seconds, so you're going to shoot to reload, increases your mod damage, so then you use a charge on your mod, rotted arrow being my choice right now because it explodes, low mod cost. You know, it generally has been working okay for me right here, right? And then I go back and I shoot, reload, and on and on. It just kind of feeds into itself, right? And you can see it's got some solid like boost to the damage. Like if we hit him with the rotted arrow, oh, we got a critical hit, 709. Wow, nice. Try again, 473. And then we start shooting and reload, which it's already reloaded. Hit him again. Look at that. See, it's a sizable chunk. It's a 40% damage increase because you got 25% here and 15% there. Like, it's a pretty reasonable amount. And so what you would end up doing when you're actually in combat, shoot, reload, and then ping, go back to your other one, shoot, reload, shoot the mod, shoot, reload, shoot the mod, and on and on and on. And you can see, like, we never, like, run out of mod power because we've got the Archon constantly regenerating, the Archon effects, like perks that are giving us more mod power back as well. Every time we shoot and we reload, it's giving us a big chunk of mod power back. And so it just keeps going on and on, right? Works okay for us. I like it. It's fun. It's engaging. You could technically do it with, like, the, what are some other ones that I messed with? Skewer or Helix rockets. Helix rockets works better because we're doing the explosion thing. The problem is a mod cost. This is 850. This is 400. That's half of it, right? So maybe you're losing out on some of the like burst damage, but at the same time, it's like you're getting the constant DPS, and it's the same problem here with Skewer, right? It's 2 charges, but again, it costs 850. But you know, to each their own, right? Now the second setup, I don't know why I closed my mods, is I think the better one. It's a lot easier to do because it doesn't have like a bunch of moving pieces. All you have to do is you get a long-lasting mod like Tremor, because that triggers our detonation trigger, lob it out there, and then you just start shooting. And you just kind of shoot things until, you know, you need to recast your Tremor, and that's it. And you don't even really, like, we're not set up for the range damage, so even if we, like, miss with the shots, which we want to hit them because that's more damage, it doesn't matter because the Tremor's doing the work. And as long as we're shooting, right, this is doing 641 right now, we shoot, get it reloaded, lob it back out there. How much are we doing? You know, that's a nice, like, 90 damage increase, and a 90 damage increase kind of across an AoE. Of course, it's 90. It might be different on these other numbers. It's a damage increase, right? It's just a nice, solid increase. Plus, we're catching guys on fire, all that stuff. And you could, in theory, do it with any kind of mod that has, like, a duration. So, like, Firestorm, Witchfire. Shoot. Actually, I didn't actually try it with, where's it at? Oh, yeah. Ring of Spears. Let's try that real quick. I want to see if it actually affects that, because that is a problem with Spirit Feeder. It doesn't actually work on everything. 221. Shoot and reload. Okay, yeah, there you go. See, damage increase. So yeah, you could have Ring of Spears going and then just start shooting and get some nice little damage increases, right? Now, problems with Spirit Feeder. Yeah, with Spirit Feeder. All right. My first thought of what to use it with was the familiar mod, because I've done builds before utilizing the hog rings, and then I just use the familiar. Lasts for a long time, does decent damage, auto targets guys, can just follow you around. So you just activate the familiar, it goes out, starts hitting dudes, and I just start shooting, and I just buff the familiar, get it recharged because I'm getting mod power back, and it just does work. It doesn't get the boost from Spirit Feeder. So like, I'm going to take off the Digested Hog Lore because Digested Hog Lore works on it, right? But when we use our familiar, we activate it, go get some guys bird. Go on. 158. We shoot and we reload. 158 is not a damage increase. But if you put on the Digested Hog Lore, look at that. It's doing more damage. So for some reason, the Digested Hog Lore is affecting our familiar thing, but Spirit Feeder isn't. And it's not the only one that does that, right? It doesn't work with that. It doesn't work with your Night Guard. It doesn't work with the crabs. It doesn't work with Root Lash. So why is that? And the only thing I can think is that because the familiars are summoning something, you know, see how it says summon fairy familiar? Does this one say summon? Launches projectile, which summons, launch an alien, releasing. I'm pretty sure this is technically summoning, but all these are creatures. And I think for some reason, Spirit Feeder doesn't like having like creatures. It doesn't like to buff them for some reason. It probably has something to do with the coding. I don't know. It's just super frustrating because Digested Hog Lore, which literally does the same effect as a Spirit Feeder, works. And the name of the mutator is Spirit Feeder. I want to feed my little spirit guys, right? Like that was the whole idea. I was like, oh yeah, that'll be so cool. It doesn't work though. It's so frustrating, right? That's the first problem. Is that I think it's a bug. It doesn't affect those mods and stuff, right? The next problem I have with it is more of like a fundamental issue with it. Why would I use it, right? Because when I look at Spirit Feeder, 25% increased damage to my mods for 5 seconds. Why would I choose Spirit Feeder over Failsafe? Failsafe at level 10 does 25% mod damage as well. Period. I don't have to do anything for that mod damage. It just is. I just do more mod damage. And then at level 10, I got Attached Mod. It has a chance not to consume charges, which is pretty good. Because a lot of times I tend to use mods that have charges. And so to suddenly like, oh wow, I guess I've got 3 charges. Cool. And then maybe you're going to argue like, oh, well, maybe you're not using mod charges. Maybe, you know, that reload speed would be really nice. And I'm like, yeah, reloading is nice. But if I'm building around mods, I don't think I've ever, outside of this very specific setups I'm doing right now, I don't think I've ever been concerned about reload speed whenever I'm doing mod stuff. Right? Like, it only happens when I'm doing specific weird things using, like, Spirit Feeder and the Hog Rings. So I don't understand. Like, why would you use Spirit Feeder? Because, like, it has a string attached where you have to reload in order to get the damage bonus, and it only lasts for 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, you have to make sure you reload, or you're not getting that damage increase, and it's not actually affecting everything. Like, let's look. So if I put on Failsafe, that's going to increase my familiar damage, right? Let's take a look. It was 288 before, right? Is it going to do the damage increase? Or no, 158? Hold on. Oh, is that not increasing his damage either? Oh, hold on. Oh, that's not increasing his damage either. Ooh. Weird. Why doesn't it work? All right, well, I guess bump that issue, right? But I think the general idea still stands, right? The general problem. Familiar, please stop. It's a lot of noise. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Like, you can't, like, there's no problems with having something that requires you to do something in order to get a benefit. I think that's perfectly cool and fine, right? Like, it makes sense. I'm okay, like, with having items that are going to require you, like, hey, if you do a little bit of work, you're going to get something out of it. I think that's awesome. It creates different ideas and, you know, build play styles, things like that, right? But it has to be better than the thing that doesn't require me to do anything. And maybe you could then make the argument of, like, because I've been getting Spirit Feeder on every single hardcore character I've been making, right? So I get it all the time. And so maybe you can make the argument that, like, well, you can just kind of get Spirit Feeder anywhere. But if you want failsafe, you have to roll a specific dungeon and defeat that specific aberrant to get it. And so, of course, it's going to be a little bit stronger because it requires you to do a very specific thing. And I'm like, no, I don't like that argument. I don't like that argument because I could easily just keep re-rolling the thing until I eventually get the thing, right? And then outside of that, like, you know, obviously not everybody's going to have every item, which is just the nature of things, right? But then for people who have, like, everything, it just doesn't, like, I just don't understand. Why would I choose Spirit Feeder over this? I don't need the reload speed if I'm doing a mod build. If it's going to require me to do work, it should be a bigger damage bonus than the other thing that doesn't require me to do work. And it's got to last longer than 5 seconds, man. 5 seconds is not very long. It's just not. It goes by so fast. I think it's the same reason they buffed this one. See, it does 7 seconds. It used to be 5 seconds. And they buffed it because 5 seconds is not very long, right? And so it needs some love. I really like Spirit Feeder, but it needs to do more damage than failsafe. It needs to last longer. And I don't think there's necessarily any problem with it, like, doing the reload speed to go with the mod stuff, right? I mean, that just makes sense because it feeds into itself. I like that idea. But good God, make it do more damage. Maybe there's some reason they don't have it doing that. Like, maybe it breaks it. Maybe it's just too OP at that point. But, I mean, again, it requires you to do stuff. And if it's going to require you to do things to get the damage bonuses, make it worthwhile, right? That's it. That's the end of my rant. I don't have anything else to say. It does work really nicely with, what's it called? The Twisted Arbalist, because it's a single shot weapon. Every shot you do is a reload. And with, like, the Spirit Feeder and stuff, it charges up pretty quick. Like, you get that, you reload, and then, bam, 40% more damage. Happy days, right? Just make sure you reload first, or you have the bonus. Again, that's kind of an annoying thing. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll probably do some more random things with the DLC coming out here fairly soon here in the next few weeks, months. I kind of, you know, I'm getting back into the game. I like trying weird and underutilized things. So I might go through more things that I hope will get buffed in the last DLC, because I would love to see more things brought up to a competitive level. I don't think everything should be 100% like, this is optimal pick. Like, I think some things should be just kind of better. Like, that's okay with me. Perfect world, yeah, everything would be viable. Everything would have its place and have, like, differences and this and that. But there's too many items to make it a 100%, like, across the board like that. But there's definitely items I think they need something more. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.